There's a moment some people describe after a near death experience where the world doesn't snap back into place. It still looks the same, but it doesn't behave the same. Tonight's guest says that after crossing that line, however briefly, things began showing up uninvited. Not symbolically, not in dreams, but in real spaces, on real people. And they didn't stop. What he describes isn't a gift he can turn off or a belief system he chose. It's a permanent condition, one that lets him see what attaches, what lingers, and what doesn't belong. Not everything he encounters is hostile, and not everything wants help, and not everything is human. He clears homes, he clears people, and sometimes what he removes doesn't want to leave. This conversation isn't about faith, comfort, or reassurance. It's about what happens when the veil doesn't close behind you. That's next, right here on the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney.
You won't know. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Good evening, my darklings. Thank you so much for joining us here again on the Paranormal 60, and we've got a great show lined up for you. Listen, many of you still don't know that Shane Pittman, Cindy Keza, and myself have a new show. It's called Paranormal Mysteries, and it's only available on Stream Beacon TV. So just go check out the free app, Stream Beacon TV. But Dave, I've tried, and I can't find it on my Fire Stick or on my Roku, but you can find it for your phone. And you can cast it to your TV. So that way you can cut out the middleman, have it right there, watch it anytime you want, right on your phone. We've got 6 brand new episodes that came out at the end of 2025 and a brand new special that just came out a few weeks ago. And it's called An Evening with the Spirits. And you could check it out. It was the 3 of us together at Helium Comedy Club. We had an amazing time, lots of laughs and insights and backstories to a lot of the things you never got to see on the TV shows we've been a part of. So go check that out. It's on Stream Beacon TV. Let's get started with tonight's show, shall we? Joining me now, Dr. Laurence Brock. Dr. Brock, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, you reach out with a story like you've got, man, I've got to have you on here. Plus, look at how good looking you are. Bald, glasses, and facial hair. I mean, what more could I ask for in a good guest?
Thank you. That's
Let me start real quickly, as I like to, not so much at the moment when all of this changed, but going back in your life, now that you have that 2020 hindsight, now that you know things and have been awakened to them, I'm just curious, now do you look back and see that there have been plots along your life's roadmap all the way that have led to this and that were kind of shimmering and showing you that there was more to come?
Oh, definitely. I just was totally ignoring them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have my head cracked open, basically. So, yes, I mean, I had, even when I was a little kid, I would see, well, I have always been able to see colors around people. Until I was a teenager, I just thought everyone could, and before my near-death experience, I saw my grandfather in a movie theater. He had passed away like about a year before that, and he was a very unique-looking person. It was definitely him. There were other little things along the way that I often say I needed a whack in the head to get with the program, basically. So.
And that's exactly what you ended up getting. Talk to us a little bit about that moment. Take us through the beginning of the day and what led to this life-altering change.
I was living in Colorado at the time, in Longmont, Colorado, about 25 miles north of Denver. And I came back to the Northeast to visit my parents. My roommate was a friend from my youth, so our parents lived in the same area. We drove his 280Z Datsun sports car all the way from Colorado without stopping to Westchester, New York, and looking back, things were so different. We found out about a party, but I don't even know how, because, without texting or online, someone must have called. But I went to a party. I was definitely drinking and smoking pot, and um, I thought I wasn't too high to drive, but it was in the 1970s, and people were not thinking the way they do now about drinking and driving. That's for sure. I I actually had this kind of plan. I told the girl who was having the party that I was too drunk to drive, so I could leave my car there. I didn't think I was too drunk to drive. I just wanted to go back and talk to her the next day. And
Well,
almost,
that was the most solid of your plans so far, Doc.
yeah. But even that nowadays is a little like questionable. Like, should you be doing that stuff? So,
Right.
so I had my friend drive me back to my parents, but almost there, I remembered my sister needed my mom's car the next day that I was driving. So I went back, got the car. I definitely remember going through the party to tell the girl I was going to take my car. And I remember walking towards the door. I don't even remember walking out of the door. I remember a little bit walking down the path to get to my car. And then the next thing I remember, I was out of my body, looking down at my body. It was all white light around me. Down there, it was dark, and my body was leaning against the tree with my legs out like that. And there was a police officer crouching over me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're out of body seeing this. Now, do you remember, was there any tactile sensation? Could you feel the physical
Yes.
form? Could you feel the wind on your face, or, what was that like?
That was most of what my experience was the feeling, because there were no thoughts about what it was. It was just like, ta-da. And then, I wasn't really thinking anything, but it did. That's how I describe it. I even go like this. It's like I like the summer, on the perfect summer day when you can kind of feel the temperature on your hand, or if you're swimming in the summer and the temperature of the water's perfect. It just felt so, so nice.
But I guess what I meant was, while you're out in the ethereal form,
Yeah.
could you, in a sense, bilocate, like feel something on the physical form?
No, not at all.
Okay. So you were just in this perfect calm environment watching this. Were you
Yes.
aware that this might be you dying?
I knew it was me damaged, but it really didn't bother me. It was everything just seemed fine, to tell you the truth. Even though I mean, if you get closely, I still have a scar. It goes all the way back because my head was really smashed open. It really did not bother me in the least bit. It was like everything was okay. Everything was how it was supposed to be. And so I was looking this way, but I knew behind me there was this big circle of white, and there was like a full silhouette of a being in there. Well, then the being spoke to me, and it sounded like a man, and said, "You have to go back. Your father wants you to stay." I knew right then that father was God, not my physical father. And in the spirit of everything was okay, I went back into my body and came to 3 days later in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what caused the damage to you? I mean, were you driving at the time and thrown
I
from the
was
vehicle?
driving, I fell asleep and drove into a tree.
Oh, and did that eject you from the vehicle?
I don't know. And it's someone not too long ago said, oh, it was like divine intervention, which it could have been, because the car was so smashed. I kind of assumed the policeman pulled me out of the car, but I never verified that. But I don't know. I really don't know, So
So you remember having that moment, and you were in the hospital for how many days?
I was unconscious for 3 days. I was in the hospital for like another week.
So during the time you were unconscious, did the superconscious, the ethereal form, was it still out there wandering around, or was that a brief moment of memory that you have and then nothing?
Yeah, I don't remember any more of that. I kind of remember a little bit almost coming to and seeing like white doctors or nurses walking by, but not really coming to. So now I wonder if other things happened during that time that I just didn't remember. And in one way, not knowing what happened kind of set up my life for finding out what happened. And in one way, I'm still trying to find out what happened, to be honest with you.
So once you've woken from this golden slumber and brought back into the living plane, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I know the world kind of felt different to you, but how quickly did you start to realize that there was a paradigm shift? Something had changed within you.
Things just started to change in my life. I mean, one thing that happened, once I was well enough, I went back out to Colorado. My mom kind of bribed me to come back to the Northeast and go, work for my dad in his electrical contracting business. But shortly after I came back, this woman showed up at my door and said she was the sister of a friend of mine from Colorado who I mentioned my experience to. And right away she said, I know someone who teaches about what happens after we die, and I want to introduce you to him. So he was this Sufi teacher. And once I started talking to him and having some experience with him, I had some of an idea of what happened. Before that, it was, I guess I'm still kind of naive, but yes, some healing things started to happen that I really, it was such a shift from where my mind was at. It took me a while to get with the program, basically.
Being in the hospital the extra week, was there any conscious memory of, now you're aware of beings around you, other things in the hospital that weren't maybe physically or visibly, I guess, seen by other people there?
I don't remember that at all. I would probably remember. So I'm trying to think the first time. I mean, after I saw my grandfather, sometimes I wonder if I see people that are dead and I don't even know it, because my grandfather looked as real as, a live person. And, but I knew he was dead. So, I don't know the first time I started seeing things outside of that, but it's his journey. But I actually met this woman at a party, and a different party, and was just kind of talking about these things, partially to show off and partially to, talk about what I do. And she was interested. She said, "Oh, I'm interested." And I gave her my phone number. She called me on the phone, and she had a lot of pain in her body for years.
Well, hold on. Before we get to the point when all your healing and things start to appear, I do want to know, because I don't want to jump too much on this. After you do get out of the hospital, do you start to notice that you're living in kind of an alternate reality for yourself now, that you are maybe hyper aware or more cognizant of things that you didn't notice before?
Yes.
All right. Was it ever frightening or intimidating to know that there was something off and you couldn't really put your finger on what it was, but you knew that life was no longer what you were used to?
No, it was never scary. It just seemed like it was the right thing. I did have some of those experiences before that. Looking back, it was, like I said, kind of naive not to even notice these things. And I didn't even make a big deal about seeing my grandfather in the movie theater. And I knew it was him 100%.
Interesting. So it's almost like you were adapted for this from a very early age.
Yes.
And this traumatic experience just made you finally fully embrace what the gifts were that you had and what was coming.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that happened was like that woman showing up at my door and introducing me to this spiritual teacher. I just started meeting people all the time. And it was, a lot of people had near-death experiences, but no one was using those words way back then. Yeah.
When you encounter people,
yes,
I know you can see and experience things now and sense them. How long before you started to realize that there were things with them, maybe friends, relatives, or entities that didn't belong?
Um, I learned pretty quickly to kind of shut it off, except when I want to do it. So when anyone asks me, there are so many things around all the time. Even you say that, I just start to look there. I mean, the good thing is most of them are angels that are positive things, but there are negative things that come around too. They're just there all the time.
Now,
Thousands and thousands of them.
I know you've got a fascinating, powerful story that continues to unfold, but
Yeah.
for people that listen to a story like this, you hear about the type of damage that you sustained.
Yeah.
Traumatic brain injury immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
Many people then begin to question, well, how does this guy know that what he's experiencing is real as opposed to he's brain damaged and he's thinking he's seeing and experiencing these things?
Well, I am a very scientific person, so I do not have any ill will towards those people whatsoever, because I would have thought that, years ago. And
Right.
but when the healings take place, it's proof to me. That's the only thing. All the other things, it could be all in my mind. And some people used to even say, how do you know it's not in their head when they get better? I don't really care. People are getting better. And sometimes it is, sometimes I do see very negative things that come off of people and stuff like that. Is there any way to prove it? No. Well, the story I was started to tell is I started to talk to this woman, and I saw this Native American healing guide next to her. And I didn't even believe in healing guides back then, but again, it was no denying it. She said to me, "Oh, yes, someone told me about it," which, I guess that's a little bit of proof, right? And but I could tell she was afraid, and I said, "You don't understand. You're afraid. You got to let this guide help you." And she did, and the pain went away like that. But so when that happens, to me, that's proof. That's the closest thing to proof.
Do you consider yourself a medical intuitive then?
No, because I don't usually. Sometimes I do know medical things, but more times than not, it's more psychological, the things that I know about people.
All right.
Yeah.
And that begs an interesting question because there are so many people that we've encountered in our lives just walking on the streets that seem to be maybe mentally unaware of their surroundings, talking to
Yeah.
things we can't see and we don't experience, and we often write it off as a drug problem, alcohol problem, or just straight up crazy.
Yeah.
How many of them do you think might actually be witnessing things that are there? We're just not tuned into it.
Yeah. I do think sometimes what happens is the energy field that kind of keeps us from that in those people get kind of torn. So I do think a good amount of them are seeing things that just they can't handle it. And it's not so easy to handle, to tell you the truth. It's a lot of energy. And I mean, when this happened, most people I wouldn't even say it. Nowadays, everyone, shows like yours, there's even in fictional TV shows, they're talking about near death experiences, the vampire shows, all these things. So I can talk to anyone about it. But back then, it was like, oh, yeah, you're crazy.
Well, unfortunately, to some people, that's still the way it is, right? But
Yeah, yeah. It's okay.
I'd rather live in a
Yeah,
magical land where I'm crazy.
I like to know for sure. I like to be scientific about it.
You have these gifts kind of come to full life within you. And
Yeah.
when did you go from realizing that you could see things, hear things, experience things to realizing that something about what you brought back allowed you to do healings?
The healings happen. Well, yes, the healings happen more quickly than my ability to see things has really increased. And like I said, I was able to see things when I was younger.
Mhm.
It was just this fumbling and bumbling, to tell you the truth, and things like that with that woman happened. And uh, my next door neighbor's father. So I grew up in an area, it was very family oriented and everyone knew each other. Our families were good friends. So the kid that was my age, his grandfather was very sick, and his father said something to me, and I said to him, and I remember because I was almost being sarcastic, I said I'd pray for him, and I did, and I felt something happen. I'm not sure what happened, but it felt like this whoosh, and then I didn't even think anything of it, but when I saw the father,
Now,
then
for people just listening, what does the whoosh mean? Is it something felt like it moved through you?
it more felt like this pressure came in and then just lifted. That was
Okay.
more.
As though you were no longer just working alone. Something was there aiding this.
Yes, it is. It was in that case. It really wasn't like a being. It was more like an energy. So sometimes there are things that look like people that come and do that too. So
Well, let's talk about that because I am curious. You've had the ability to see things, witness things in different ways.
yeah,
Um, I'm curious what your take is on places that are reportedly haunted,
yeah.
things that are haunted. Is it truly the spirit of humanity or a human that's with them? Is it something darker? Is it something lighter? Or is it something altogether extraterrestrial? We'll talk about that when we return. Our guest this evening, Dr. Laurence Brock. We've got a lot on our plate. Stay tuned, folks. We're just getting started right here on the Paranormal 60.
Hello, Darklings and my fellow mind travelers. This is Mark Allen Lanou, the Gemini Mind. Come take a journey with me through this place we call life by picking up a copy of my book, Reality Was Once the Tapestry of the Dreamer. Available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon online. You can find the links also on my website, markallenlanou.com. Chock full of stories about organized crime, the paranormal, my music career, NASA, and more. So go pick up your copy, and you all rock. Indeed.
This weekend, if you're looking for live music, great food, good drinks, and a place where the night never goes exactly as planned, I've got your spot. It's the Palmer House Hotel, Restaurant, and Pub in beautiful, friendly Sauk Center, Minnesota, where the pub stays lively, the hotel stays cozy, and yes, a few longtime guests have never really checked out. This Friday night, join us in the Palmer House Pub for live music with the incredible band Cimarron, bringing the sound and the fun. And then February 6th and 7th, it's Dueling Pianos live at the Palmer with international recording artist Katie Hart and the always entertaining Evan Casseth. High energy, audience requests, and sing-along chaos guaranteed. And coming up fast, pajama parties, Valentine's events, live shows, haunted tours, and plenty more reasons to make a night or a weekend out of it. Rooms do fill fast, so don't wait. Call now to book 320-351-9100. That's 320-351-9100. And if you book now and book a Friday and Saturday night, I'll give you a free Thursday night stay. That way, you don't feel rushed to begin your trip. You can come in on Thursday night, relax, settle in, have some fun, and then you get all day Friday and Saturday to explore beautiful downtown Sauk Center and the Palmer House itself. Go check out all of the great things we've got coming up and book yourself a stay at thepalmerhousehotel.com. That's thepalmerhousehotel.com. All right, we're back. Dr. Laurence Brock, our guest this evening. And fascinating story, folks. If you missed any part of it, he, as a young man, was driving in an inebriated state, well aware of just how poor a decision that was. And he paid what could have been the ultimate price by hitting a tree, damaging his head, and having an awakening. Being outside of his body, seeing these things happen and take place. And then as life came back to somewhat normal, he realized that he had been, or maybe opened up his gifts even further, things that were a part of him that were now fully engaged. And we've talked a little bit about, the healings and things along that nature, and we'll get more to it because Dr. Brock also helps with clearings. So if you're dealing with energies and entities, he can help you with that and with your home, do things along those lines. So we have a link for Dr. Brock on today's program guide, so you can find him easily. So whether you're watching us live now on the YouTubes or you're listening to the show in the comfort of your own home, car, or at work, make sure you go check out the data about today's episode, and there's a link right inside there. Before the break, Dr. Brock, I asked you with the abilities to see things. I'm just curious, how often are the rest of us without these gifts misinterpreting what's going on? Is it really the ghosts of departed loved ones? Is it angels? Is it time slip phenomena? Is it demons or something extraterrestrial that's around us?
all, all of those things. It depends on the individual situation. So I do house clearings. I'm trying to think of one. So there was one, this house, so this is for a realtor, and there was this house there that just wasn't selling. It was a nice house. The price was right. And I went there and I noticed there were they're called elementals. They're things that are in the ground, and we're just kind of messing with the water. And I said this to the realtor, and she said, yeah, they've been having these really unusual plumbing problems that they can't fix. And elementals are not really terrible, but they kind of like to play around and mess with us. But if we ask them nicely, they kind of have to help us. So I did what I do to ask them, and it was kind of cool because shortly after that, they were able to fix their plumbing problems and the house sold. So that's one thing. There's
Are these what we would call nature sprites, or the indigenous tribes would talk of like the land gods and spirits?
These are things in the land. Yeah, they're not exactly those things, but yes, close.
Okay. All right. And keep going. I mean, I'm fascinated by how these experiences continue to open up for you. When you see these things, how clearly are you able to define that this is something that was human, was never human, something elemental in nature?
Right. Or the elementals are not things that were human, but sometimes on properties there are people that live there and they don't want to leave, and they're there kind of messing with it. So those are like, disincarnated entities, I guess you'd call them. Sometimes they're demons, and those are usually, well, sometimes they were humans, but they're a little worse than entities. I'm thinking of this. There was this one property that it was interesting because, first of all, I noticed that the realtor had some karma there, and I said, something about this reminds you of a past life where you were like a maid or something like that. And she goes, yeah, every time I go in there, I start sweeping the floor. And then there was something on the road that was going to the house that the energy was, and it wasn't specifically like beings. It was just this dark, yucky energy there. And then I realized I could put a tube of light energy there. So when the people came to the house, they weren't feeling terrible.
Now, when you say you put a tube,
yes, right.
We need a deeper understanding of what that means.
You use your creative imagination, and I say that term. It's just like you imagine it, and and so in the spirit, our imagination starts to create things.
Okay, so
it's just imagining it there. That's pretty much what it is.
So you're manifesting a source of energy, a protective barrier, something that's there.
Yeah.
Okay. And do people tell you that they can feel those barriers when you're doing this kind of work, and they sense that you're not putting a whammy on them, but
No, but sometimes people do, but more importantly with properties, it's usually they sell. So there was one house that realtor asked me about, and she kept saying, do you need the address? And I said, I don't really need the address, which makes it even seem more woo-woo, right? So, and then she kept insisting. I said, okay, give me the address. And it was a good thing because as soon as she told me it's like this ball of purple light came from far away and went right here and went, and I said, oh, the house is clear. And because I knew it was. And then she told me they got a price the next day and they sold the house. What she didn't tell me, and I didn't find out for months, they were trying to sell that house for close to 7 years without any luck. So that was pretty cool.
So that energy, what do you think was holding that back? What kind of?
In that case, I didn't get to know. I don't, the information is secondary compared to the results. So if something starts to move right away, I don't. In one way, if I tried to stop it, I might get the information, but I don't want to stop the process of it clearing. That was just one. I like the ones when they happen like that. It's very magical.
Yeah, you would just think, though, that would be helpful to you to know so that you can start seeing what these beings or energies are, so it makes it a little easier for you with the type of work
Yeah.
and whatever you're going to do to alter that.
Well, it's part of this is to not know, to tell you the truth, because there's so many variables. If you start looking for something, again, you might be looking here and it's over there. So if you know it's here, it is more like just I have to be open to it and see whatever comes. So there are times that there's people that live there, like I said. I mean, where I live in the Northeast, there are a lot of places that Indian, Native Americans used to live. So there are a lot sometimes that right where I live, that there's a ferry that goes to where 9/11 is. So for quite a while after 9/11, there were a lot of, they're not quite ghosts, but they're kind of lost souls just because they died a little before their time in a certain way. So they were just floating around all the time.
With somebody with your gifts and skills, then does that ever become overwhelming, especially when something that tragic and that big has a ripple effect and leaves behind these fractions of souls?
Yes. Sometimes it is. I am sensitive, but it takes work. I do stuff to clear myself all the time. I also check in with someone who does what I do to make sure, because it's a little harder to see your own stuff, basically. Yes, it is. Some days I think I'm so sensitive, I just need to stay home, kind of thing. Yeah.
And when you are doing that, I mean, did you, since you were so close to that area,
Yeah.
you doing anything to try to help those spirits to clear and
Yes. Yeah. So again, we do use our imagination, and I call it the creative imagination because it's a little different. But basically, when there's lost souls like that, you want to introduce them to a prophet, usually. So there are like Jesus, Abraham, all the prophets from the different religions are there. Usually, so Jesus handles the most amount of people, so it's kind of like that. But sometimes you just either guess, or if I'm talking to, like, if I'm helping a loved one from a family, I'll ask what's their religion of origin that they were born into. Otherwise, that it's either Jesus or that usually.
Okay. And I guess that kind of begs the question then, that if there are these religious deities that exist, why aren't they just helping these spirits in a tragedy like this? Why does it require Dr. Laurence Brock to call them down, or other spiritual workers to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because a lot of the things are set up for humans to grow spiritually, so it's kind of like a thing for me to learn, I guess. It seems like it all should happen. So many things are like that. We're like, why aren't they just fucking good? You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're not. So I don't. But well, a lot of times I can get there still, but from my near-death experience, it's like it all makes sense. And see, as soon as I say that and look at it from that perspective, it's like somehow things are unfolding and aligning the right way. And it's hard to explain more than that.
Does it ever become too much for you?
Well, I meditate every day. I do journal writing. I check with someone. I do a lot of stuff to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, when I was young, part of the reason I was smoking pot and drinking is because it was kind of intense, But I think a lot of people like the break getting high gives you. So I think I was perhaps a little more sensitive than a lot of people, but I think a lot of people are sensitive. I guess I'm lucky and blessed that I found this to do, because you said, are there crazy people out there who are seeing real things? I do think there are. They just don't know how to direct their abilities, basically.
To kind of process that knowledge that they're getting as well, right?
Yeah, yes.
But it is interesting to me because in some elements, like the child doesn't know that it shouldn't see these things.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't experience them. You just thought everyone could see these lights around people because that was part of your life. If you're not brought up, nobody's saying to you specifically, hey, Larry, nobody else is seeing lights around people.
Yeah,
or, hey, that we all have this special gift and there's colored lights around us. We have no way of knowing when we are get gifted and have these kind of abilities. That's got to be kind of a mind explosion in itself when you come to realize that it's not everybody that's doing this.
Yeah.
And it's this.
Yeah, I was a teenager with the thing with the colors around people. I was kind of pissed off, to tell you the truth, when I first found out, like, because it part of it was like, why aren't people acting from this very loving place? And I can see that in people, and like, so my realization of the colors and that were like together, and it's like, in a certain way, becoming very disappointed about the world, basically. So.
Mr. Mario Neo says maybe it's part of the spiritual healing to be conducted here on this plane, that may be why we have earthbound souls until that healing occurs one way or another.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone is in the process of returning to God. So whatever that process is, it's, part of it is of getting lost and then finding yourself. So I think even the disincarnated souls, that's part of their process too.
Now you see humans, and like you said, maybe you're seeing a ghost and don't even realize it because they're corporeal looking to you. But what about when you start seeing alien, extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings? How shocking is that?
Again, I think it was just so natural to me. So there are sometimes I see these little creatures. I actually call them Star Wars because they looked like some creatures from Star Wars. And I don't know what they're really called, but they come and help. I haven't had any negative experiences with them.
Do they know that you can see them and witness them? Are they ever surprised, like, oh geez, this guy sees us?
No, they come specifically to interact with me.
Okay. And have you ever seen the maybe you're past the ego and the id of it all? The constant question in my mind to these beings would be, why me? Why Dr. Laurence Brock? Why have I been gifted this? Why am I seeing this? Why am I allowed to heal and help others? And this isn't something for everybody. Have you ever had that conversation with these superior beings?
No. It all has always seemed so natural to me, and like how things are supposed to be.
You just accept everything the way it is. That's got to be kind of a calming element to life too.
Well, there in the things we're talking about, yes. I have a 21-year-old daughter. I'm not always accepting what she's doing.
How many times have you had to cast away demons? And by that I mean boys that were interested. Well, let's talk about that. There's this overwhelming fear of attachments and possession and oppression. How real is that, and how much of it is imagined, or maybe we're pointing the finger at something to try to take the blame off ourselves for our bad choices?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some of that, but usually when people come to me, there are some negative forms in their energy field that are attached to them. It's very common.
Do you ever cast one out and only to find it attached to somebody else?
I never have, no.
Okay. Well, I mean, would you recognize it if it was, or do you not get that clarity of vision when you look at these things and deal with them?
I mean, some of them I see very clearly what they are, but I don't know if my understanding is if I clear something off someone, that exact thing can't go back to them. But I never even thought about it if it goes somewhere else. So the idea is normally to try to return them to God or to the light, something like that. So it's
but if it's not a being from the light, can you still send it there?
That is a good question. That is my intention, and I do what I do, and I'm looking for the person to feel better. In that part, I don't think that. I think they are cleared and they're gone. That's my understanding. But I've never spent that much time thinking about it, to be honest with you.
See, that's the other part of my fears, right? I'd be afraid if I was gifted this, when it's my time to cross, am I going to have a lot of pissed off things that I've sent away, waiting for me to enter that ethereal form so they can, met out their revenge.
Yeah. That's not something that I think about, that's for sure.
I don't want to plant the dirty seed in your head like that either.
No,
Doc.
no, I mean, no, because what I see, the things that I can see, to me, that's the afterlife. It's really great. Sometimes I talk about it's like a party. So my father died a few years ago, and he was
I'm sorry.
92. Until he was, maybe a year before that, he was so healthy. And then really just 6 months before, he started having problems. He lost his voice, and he was a very social person. It was very frustrating for him. So he had, in one way, a blessing. He only really suffered for 6 months. And in the beginning, it wasn't that much suffering. But when he passed away, he was happy. And he would actually, for a while, he was like flying around the room. And it almost felt like a little kid running around with just endless energy, because he went from, it got to where he couldn't really move his body, he couldn't talk and everything. So he was very happy, and I talk about like with a party. Yeah.
For those of us that are like, oh, I should have made that one more call. Oh, why didn't I
Yeah.
answer this call? Why didn't I do this? When you've got a gift to heal, is it frustrating that there was nothing that you were able to do to take that away from your father?
It is. I mean, there were times he wasn't really quite sick, but I knew I could help him some. But I asked him, and he really didn't want it. He was a medical, Western medical kind of person. So, yeah, you say that, I even start to feel a little sad inside.
No, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intent.
No, that's okay. It's part of this. Part of
having
doing
lost
it.
my father this last year as well, there are those moments that we all think, what if? Could I have done something?
Yeah.
It's always there in our minds. We're going to take our final break. We'll come back. We've got more to talk about with Dr. Laurence Brock. I am watching the chat as well. If you have specific questions for any of the things that you've heard this evening, or you'd like insight, go ahead and enter those into the chat, and I will do my best to try to use those during the next few segments that we have together. Stay tuned. There's more to listen, more to talk about, and more to learn right here on the Paranormal 60.
A new year is rapidly approaching, which means it's time to stop letting last year's chaos rent space in your head and in your heart. This is the season of new everything. New life, new love, new confidence, new jobs, and new chances to finally become the best version of you that you've dreamt of. And the universe? Well, it's practically standing on your lawn with a giant cosmic boombox blasting messages meant just for you. You just need the right conduit. And that's where Love and Lotus Tarot with Winnie Schrader comes in. Winnie doesn't just read cards. She translates destiny. He helps you see the opportunities lining up, the patterns trying to repeat, and the new beginnings that are already forming behind the scenes. Right on the heels of New Year comes Valentine's Day, which means love is in the air, or at least it should be. And if your love life has been more like a blue screen of death error, romance not found, don't panic, my friends. The universe is already trying to nudge you in the right direction. The cards are ready to be shuffled, your story is ready to turn the next page, and your next beginning is closer than you think. Book your reading now, or better yet, buy a reading for a friend. Visit lovelotustarot.com and start the year the way it deserves, with clarity, confidence, and maybe even finding the love that you deserve. That's lovelotustarot.com. Your destiny awaits. You know, my darklings, December moves pretty fast. All the outings, the parties, the shopping, the travel, the did we actually wrap everything chaos? But once the noise dies down, there's always that one moment that I look forward to most. Slowing down, cozying up, and just being present with the people I love. And that's exactly why I keep going back to Cozy Earth. Their bamboo sheets, made from viscose from bamboo, are the best gift of better sleep I've ever given, and the best gift I've ever given myself. They're incredibly soft, they sleep cooler, and somehow they make crawling into bed feel like you're slipping into a luxury retreat. And if you've got someone on your list who desperately needs rest, or if that someone is you, this is the gift that says, take a breath. You deserve this. And then there's the Bubble Cuddle Blanket, I've told you about this. If you want to give a gift that feels more like an experience than a product, like a hug that they can feel from you any time of year, this is the gift. It's got that plush textured feel, just the right weight, and it turns any couch or bed into the coziest corner of the house. Snuggling by the fire, movie nights, maybe even a quiet moment on the couch. This blanket makes all of it better. It's comfort that lingers long after the holidays end. Plus, you get a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Think about that. Try returning any other bedding after using it for 3 months. That just ain't gonna happen. Cozy Earth stands behind every stitch. So here's the deal. Now, through December 12th, head to CozyEarth.com and use my code P60 for up to 40% off. And order by the 12th for guaranteed Christmas delivery. Listening after that, don't worry, my darklings, the code still works and it's going to get you 20% off year-round. And if you get that post-purchase survey, make sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Paranormal 60. Again, CozyEarth.com. Use my code P60 for up to 40% off through December 12th, 20% off year-round. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries you into a cozy new year.
Welcome back to the program. This is the Paranormal 60. I'm Dave Schrader. That's Dr. Laurence Brock. And we've got some questions from the live chat. If you don't mind, Dr. Brock, we'll throw to them.
That's great.
Let me see. Let me throw this off. Mario says, perhaps those aren't of the light, just fear what healing forgiveness means for their existence. In essence, they would cease to be the negative vibration that they have grown comfort from. That's an interesting insight.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of like begs the thought of the movie Dogma, where the two angels found their loophole to get back into heaven. It's like, I've realized what I did, the folly of my ways. I want back in. How do you get through that gate again? Right? What is that portal?
We are very powerful creators in the spiritual level, so the thoughts can control, which it's one thing I studied some is quantum physics, which is very much about how we affect things on an atomic level. So I like there's somewhat scientific proof that's there are just so many variables in each person's story and the things I see, and I choose to be open and like to be open more to the good and try to help whatever I can, whether they're physical, whatever level they're on, I try to help.
Got a question here from Acoustic Kitty. How do you ask elementals to help? Will they show themselves if asked?
If you can see that stuff, yes. You do just kind of think of it to yourself. The elementals they like to help us. They just need to be asked. So there's something people I think feel more than that. There's what's called divas that are they're almost like little fairies that are with plants. So the elementals are more in the earth. You just have an intention. So where I live, there's a lot of underground water, so there's naturally a lot of elementals. So I'm more familiar with that. But whenever you just kind of tune into them and ask them to help and kind of play a game that is helpful to us.
Is that why some spirits are drawn to areas like that? We often equate that the running water underground is what powers the spirit realm.
Yeah.
It's creating an energy, but is it more because it's also kind of a magical spot where these earth spirits, energies, and everything kind of coincide, like the fantastical ley lines, and then that draws spirits to them as well, like a bug zapper.
It is, so it is the energy there that brings them to it, definitely. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Shelley Phelps says, I'd like to ask Dr. Brock, Dave, and all, would you please pray for my mom? She's in so much pain from breaking her wrist in September, and the doctors aren't able to help. Now, is that the kind of work that you can do as well with healing? Calling forth? What what could you do in this instance for her? Is it
Well,
prayer? Is it just sending energy and thought? How does that work?
there's part of it that's like that. Like, so I would say to that person, I'll send the light, because that's something that takes 1 second. And see, I go like this. I use my hands, even though I'm working with people far. So I start to feel some warmth in my hands. So I'm assuming that person's getting some of the energy. And then if I was working directly, well, I'm still holding the energy. So I'll do that for and see what happens. I know what I do lines things up spiritually. I don't always know exactly how it's going to help someone. So, but I've learned that what I do usually help. And I say usually, it always helps. Sometimes people just all of a sudden find an answer to their question, or the right medication to take, or something like that. Or sometimes they just get better right away.
And Shelley, we just ask the Lord to work for your mother, through your mother, and with any of the medical staff that come into contact with her. We ask for clarity of mind, for steady hands, and the ability to have patience and understanding in bringing her the best healing. And we pray that in God's name. Amen. Let's see. I've got a couple more questions I want to try to get in here. I got to keep scrolling down. Doctor, this is somewhat tricky. Have you ever come across a situation where you feel that there may have been a misdiagnosis, where something may have a paranormal source as opposed to strictly medical?
Oh, yeah. There's always a spiritual or metaphysical cause. Then you look for what level is going to fix it the easiest way. Sometimes the medical way is the way to go, but if someone's not healthy, there's always something going on spiritually and metaphysically. It is always that way. This woman came to, I don't see people in person very much anymore. So this was a while ago. She came, I don't even remember what she was diagnosed with, but she came, I worked on her, and I can tell when the energy's really moving. She came back the next week saying, oh, the doctors thought they made a mistake in my diagnosis, because she was just better. So yes, there's different levels. There's the physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric, and then soul levels. And you look for where's the quickest way to fix it, like the most bang for the buck, basically. Yes.
Julie says, I have so much pain I can barely walk most days.
Okay.
Now, I know I've heard of psychological pain.
Yeah.
We know of physical pain, things that have caused that. I fell down a flight of stairs a couple weeks back. I have a lot of pain in my back. I know where that stems from. But how do we know, or how do we discern when it's something beyond physical, and that it might be something interfering with our energy, interfering with our bodies and our way of life?
Like I said, there always is some of that, and the negative things in spirit are always looking for ways they can get in and mess with us, basically. And so it doesn't matter that much which one happened first, but I try to look to see what level, if I do something on, will it work the best. So I'm going to send the light to that person, and if we could just hold off like 10 seconds so I could just do that. Yeah, because when someone's hurting, that's not very good. So.
Yeah, giving the opportunity for energy to come in, and we also have to be willing to accept it. So
yes, on some level, but a lot of times people come see me, they don't believe in what I do, and they're the whole time saying this is totally BS. And it still works.
Right. And I understand that element of it, but there's still that case that if we're living constantly in a negative mind space, that's not helping us heal. That's keeping us in a place that is keeping us from being able to allow the good in sometimes, right? I think we create those little tumultuous moments.
Well, the negative powers, doubt, worry, and fear, are their favorite games to play with us. That's for sure.
Timeless Jewels by Deborah says, my NDE, near-death experience, I remember nothing, but after I started as a vigil care hospice volunteer and a paranormal investigator, it just felt right. So she had her ND, and there was this calling to it, right?
That's cool. Yeah, that's kind of like how mine was, because it just unfolded over years. I did not know in my mind what to make of it at all. So
it's interesting many of us that have been called into this field that have an interest in it had near-death experiences. I had 2 or 3.
Really?
My problem is I have no memory. There was no thrown out of my body seeing things. There was no tunnel of light. There was nothing there for me. But that fascination opened up to me that I believed enough that other people were having those experiences.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's good. That the thing that happened to me is I just kept meeting people after that were directing me to learn more healing and learn more about spiritual things.
So people that are watching right now, Dr. Brock, and they've heard some of your testimony and stories of what you've gone through and what you're able to do. I am curious, before I ask this completely, let me go back to this. When you do this work and you send out that energy and you help to clear, does that deplete something from you for a while? Do you need to do things to re-engage and get that energy back for yourself?
Usually it's more clearing off the negative stuff. Usually when I do it, I get energized. Once in a while, it's like hard work, and in that way it's draining. But most of the times it's more I got to do stuff to clear. Because if I have any karma that's similar to what's going on for that person, there's a good chance I'll pick some of it up. I also, people I really care about and want to help, that perhaps if I were to remember to do the proper process, I wouldn't pick that up. But like, talked about my daughter, I just want to help her. I don't even think about myself. So sometimes that happens. Yeah. It's definitely, I tell to meditate and journal write, really, really important if you're going to do this work. A lot of people don't, and they don't take care of themselves, and they get really drained.
So for people that are looking for help, maybe feel like there's no place left to go. My life is cursed, Dave. I feel cursed. I feel like it's a generational thing, or I think something's mucking with me and I've gone everywhere. The church isn't helping. Nothing's helping.
Yeah.
If they reach out to Dr. Laurence Brock, what can you do for them and how do you do it?
I usually listen to what they're telling me. Sometimes I'll see things different than they're telling me. It is kind of like praying. It's asking for this positive energy there. There's part of it of being very open. There are many beings in spirit that are there to help us. They like to help us too. So with a little asking, they're very, and I know I can do it better than most people. It's like anything, like playing sports. There's some people that are great and some people that are not. Cooking, anything. It just, I've had this ability. So it is like I hold the energy there. There are times I get to know specific things and there's kind of a emotional processing part to it. Sometimes I see lifestyle changes people should make that'll really help them. But usually it's holding this energy there. I do a lot of times talk in a way to kind of almost distract the person, because if their mind gets in there, they'll try to understand it, and that doesn't help. So I'm holding my hands. This is what I do. I hold my hands like this, and I can feel the energy there, and I put it in the person's body, wherever they are in the world, like that.
And people can reach out to you from anywhere on your website.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you ask for an exchange for this, a monetary?
Oh yeah, they have to pay me. Definitely, yes.
Okay. There are elements of people that say, well, why? If you've got this gift of healing, why should I pay you? Shouldn't that be something that you do? But in another sense, it's an exchange of energies, and it's a commitment and a contract or a covenant that you're creating between one another.
It is, and I have to make a living, and it takes up my time. There's also to keep it balanced. In one way, someone paying me, it's kind of like you pay someone to paint your house. You even say, "Oh, I painted my house," so they're doing it. It's not me doing it. It is me doing it for them, but it's kind of like hiring. I used to be an electrician. Hiring an electrician, you don't go, "Oh, I shouldn't have to pay you because you know how to do that." So it keeps things balanced, and it's so much clearer. And I've learned that over years that part is really, really important. Plus, I went to school. I spent thousands of dollars. I spend hours every day. I'm always learning, spending more money to learn more and stuff like that. So it is you got to keep the energy fair and balanced. It's a give and take thing, definitely.
Fair enough. Dr. Laurence Brock, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Interesting stories, interesting people. That's what we're all about here on the Paranormal 360. And if tonight felt uncomfortable, it should have. Because the hardest part of these conversations isn't in accepting that something unseen exists. It's more like realizing how often it interacts without announcing itself. What our guest shared wasn't a sales pitch, a belief system, or even a dramatic retelling. It was a pattern recognition, years of watching the same types of presences, behave the same ways, respond the same ways, and leave the same marks behind. So whether you accept his interpretation or not, the consistency is the story. And maybe that's the most unsettling takeaway. Not that something is out there, but that it's been here long enough to learn us. Thank you for tuning in and spending some time. We'll be back with you Wednesday with the Paranormal 60 News, right here at your home for all things strange and supernatural. I'm Dave Schrader. This is my Paranormal 60.